Hey everyone, welcome back to the LBP Speedrunning Guide. Today we'll be covering Great Magician's Palace, another cycle heavy level. At the start you're actually going to want to not do a dialogue jump here, since just by walking and closing out of the dialogue box, it sets you up to run across the falling blocks perfectly without having to wait. You can try edge jumping off some of the next blocks, just make sure to run off the last one as it's pretty easy to trip when you land if you jump earlier. Since these next blocks spawn as you get near them, it can be a bit hard to know where they'll appear at first. But once you get used to it, you can stair climb these first few, then do a light jump to land on these lower two, to then full jump up to the last ones. There's a few different options for this next part. The fastest thing to do is to jump off the block that the checkpoint is attached to skip waiting for the other blocks to spawn. But this is only useful if you're going for a super fast cycle later on, which really isn't necessary for full game runs. The main risk here is that if you miss, you'll go back to the checkpoint before this one and lose a ton of time, since when you go over this one, you don't activate it. The other two safer options are to edge jump the whole way as the second block spawns, or land on the last block just before it despawns. It can be easy to get stuck behind each block here as it falls. So what you want to try to do is get a jump off the lowest block just after it falls, to then jump over the second lowest one, to then go underneath the third one as it comes down, all while trying to maintain your running speed. Or just go underneath the second one. Now here's that super fast cycle that we mentioned a moment ago, where if you've gone fast enough through every section before this, you can try getting a lucky edge jump to just barely catch the platforms that are moving away from you. It's actually kind of nice because if you die going for it, you can just get the normal cycle anyway, so you're not risking too much. Just if you do get it, it does make some of the cycles later on in the level a bit more tight. For the part with the lever, the safe option is to spawn 2 blocks in the third position and jump across, but it's also possible to spawn them 1 position closer and do an edge jump. If you're still on the fast cycle, then you'll probably need to go for this riskier option, as it'll make the next section a lot harder if you don't. On the first set of blocks that are stacked on top of each other, you can do an RCJ to make it to the upper section early. If you're on the faster cycle, you'll have less time to do the RCJ than normal, which is why going for the riskier edge jump at the lever might be useful. If you miss the RCJ, just go around as normal or try again if you die. It is also possible to bounce jump to get straight into the back layer once you're here, but just never do this. Instead, head up to the jumping fire, where if you climbed up fast enough, you can go underneath the first one, over the second, then through the last two. But just be careful and only go when you're comfortable, as it's really easy to get comboed by the fireballs. At the falling squares, run underneath the first one if you can make it, then jump over the last one and head to the button. Generally, after pressing the button, you can just get crushed by the first falling block where you'll respawn outside straight away. But sometimes, depending on your timing, you'll die again as the checkpoint is moving and potentially lose some time. But a way to prevent it is to start holding to retry through the air from a jump as you're pressing the button to delay the death. After you respawn, move forward before running or you'll probably get stuck on the wall. Then you can either swing across this section as normal or do an edge jump to get on top of the sponge to jump across. Avoid the fireballs and run down to grab the block, but only pull it so it comes out about halfway, where you can then go back, jump onto it and get out of this section without even moving the second one. There is another small time save here, which involves getting a really high bounce jump to get into the back layer, to then drop forward onto the sponge to avoid pulling it. But it's so hard to do that you should never really go for it in a run. If you haven't made any mistakes up to this point, you can go over the first gap of the jumping fire without stopping, where you can then just switch back a layer to avoid any further danger when jumping across. Now you can just run all the way to the end, but if you want you can try going for a banana jump off the pillar. If you get it high enough and in the right spot, you can actually change back a layer onto an object where you can then jump to the scoreboard before the magician transports you to the wilderness. It is pretty hard and it doesn't save much, so it doesn't matter if you miss it, but there's no risk involved so you may as well go for it. Once you're in range of the scoreboard, quit early to the pod and you'll be done with the temples. And now we're up to the final world in the game, which probably has the most challenging set of levels, especially compared to the world we just finished. So we'll be starting that off next time with the Frozen Tundra, which actually isn't too long of a level. See you next time.